Greetings, chess friends. We are back. Round number 7. As I mentioned in the last video, got a forfeit win in the 6th round, so a little bittersweet. Good to get a full point, but we are at 3 out of 6 playing up. Let's get right into this one. We are playing with the white pieces, finally playing up, and I thought this was a great opportunity. And really, after looking at this game with the white pieces, we were not able to make the most of an interesting position. My opponent played well, as expected, and I must say, this game felt dramatic at the board, but the engine paints a different story. So let's take a look. Here, Queen's Indian Defense. Super common, top-level opening when you play knight f3. If you play knight c3, you are subject to the Nimzo Indian Defense. So that's one of the main differences in the queen-pawn openings, which knight you bring out in this position. In the Queen's Indian, here we go. I like this variation with a3. My opponent said he had seen it in the database, so there you go. Knight c3, and a typical move here would be d5, and my opponent plays knight e4. I had seen this before, but had to kind of hope my memory was working. This had been played after I looked it up a number of times by Richard Rapport, so a really exciting one. I decided to take and play the interesting move knight d2. A very good response, followed by e4, of course. So actually, I did not play the next few moves as the high-level games went, but very interesting. I was happy to see g6, also queen f6, kind of an uncomfortable attack on the pawn. I saw in the database, but g6, again here, just on my own, and played queen c2. I was intending to castle long, h4, h5, let's go. Because, again, I wanted to win this game, really thought this was the opportunity. Interestingly enough, the main line of this opening and this variation goes with the most natural placement of the pieces. Bishop d3, knight f3, and then the bishop can wake up. So queen c2 may be a little hasty, but it certainly guards the pawn, and I understood that knight f3 had to come. So why do it like that? Well, hoping that, again, h4 a little early, to be honest. And now that I'm seeing this, I have a tendency to do this a little bit. So learning here out in the open, showing everyone my progression as a chess player still to this day. h4, it's not time to attack, Chris. You have two bishops undeveloped. You are not castled. And really, this is way too optimistic, especially against a strong player. That being said, it still is scary. My opponent has these two bishops, which are pretty well placed, but nothing else. f5, a good reaction. Really interesting. I played bishop d3, knight c6, and here the game takes an interesting path, but my opponent really understood deeply that these pawns, as you find out as you improve in chess, the pawn's so dominant in the center. Let's even go back one move right here. The pawn's so dominant in the center can often be brittle and broken by a few pawn breaks. Here we go, like f5, c5, or d5. Any of these type moves, potentially even e5, you could imagine happening and this pawn center crumbling. So my opponent did a good job of that. Knight c6, a move which doesn't look so natural, putting the knight in front of the pawn. d5 and knight d4, exchanging a minor piece, but this bishop really becomes powerful, not only threatening the f2 square, but also kind of keeping control of the king side. It's a great attacker and defender. Close to equal game here, but I went astray on this moment with bishop h6. Couple variations here. Had we played bishop g5, I thought of this one. Very natural move, but queen e8, kind of annoying with our king sitting right in the middle of all this. The queen now staring. Notice this rook could easily be opened up by pawn takes pawn, opens the rook, and bishop starting to feel uncomfortable. And you can see why that knight exchange here, knight d4, was a really good move. So here we go. We could have played also one interesting line was e takes f5. You don't want to take this way and really shake things up. This gets too scary around the black king, but let's say e takes f5, bishop g5, queen e8, and king f1. Followed by eventually, if not immediately, rook e1 coming for sure. h5 still coming, rook e1, an interesting game, right? Our king actually feels a little safe here with the f file staying closed. So, okay, here's the real game. Was bishop h6. I thought a natural move. He played f takes e4. I had actually foreseen this and didn't see the upcoming move queen f6. I'll show you here in right. Takes, queen f6. It gets an exclamation point. This is a really good move with the extra threat. So I was thinking something like bishop to b2. Thought this was going to work out for me, honestly. But here, queen f6. And, you know, the worst thing, which always seems to happen, is right around this moment, as he's calculating, then I saw queen f6. And I realized, oh boy, okay, queen f6 landed, and then I realized, okay, we need to kind of pull the brakes here. Still a very interesting game, though. King d1, the only legal move. And here, what would you play as black? You have a bishop and a pawn for a rook. White's attack is very slow here, but my opponent plays a very good move. I wish he had just played a boring move and given us a little more opportunity, but this move shocked me, but was very good. Immediately noticed c5. c5. And this is, again, one of those types of moves, I will say, that kind of separates the players at my level, 21, 2200, and versus 24 and 2500 players. c5, a really nice concept. First of all, if the pawn just remains, you have cemented the bishop, which is kind of the most dominant piece, this bishop on the board. I mean, for what a bishop can do, it's doing the most. And then your queen, of course, can go and do other things. Second, if en passant were to happen, bishop takes, which immediately adds another piece to the attack. This bishop, which really hasn't been doing much this game. So c5, what a move. And I really, a bit under duress now, played h5. And really, what else can we do? He played queen takes g2. I saw this coming and really thought I had come up with a wonderful concept. And like I said at the beginning of this one, the engine just kind of chuckles at my idea. Rook to h3. Actually giving up this rook. And I thought I had a wonderful concept here with queen g1 and bishop c1. I thought this was going to lock in their queen for enough moves that we could get off this attack successfully. And still maybe even this bishop helping. So that was the dream. Black gets one move here, and after he just quickly played queen a2, I realized, oh, e takes d5 is coming. Bishop a6 actually lands in the game, and this attack on the white side is not fast enough, and the black attack is even faster. And of course, we're all in here. Black is up a minor piece. H takes g6 was played in the game. What else to do? Bishop a6. And realizing, of course, that this is not actually checkmate. G takes h7, kind of a desperate automatic move. He plays king h8, exclamation point, but of course, the most natural move. Queen g6, scary looking queen move, but it doesn't do anything. Perhaps we had an opportunity here to play d takes e6. A good shakeup, actually, and might have surprised him. Notice the rook is now a little tender. Queen f3 could be on tap. Queen takes c4, queen c4, bishop c4, very likely to occur. G takes h7, which is check, and then e takes d7. Maybe? Maybe we have some dream that this is okay, but unlikely. So back to the game. So yeah, here we go. Was queen g6, and my opponent played queen takes d5. Still, black is completely safe. White cannot generate a threat, despite the rook, queen, bishop, and this pawn all the way on h7. So the final move was here, queen c4. I resigned. No, one more move. Queen d3. I resigned the game here. Of course, he's encouraging a queen trade, which is just losing for me. But of course, this is also a deadly threat. Queen takes a3 because of the pin here. So resigned 29 moves, but an action-packed game. Really got out of hand at this moment after f takes e4. This is where the game just went off the rails. Before that, we had an interesting opening struggle, and really myself quite out of my book knowledge with this line. Did not handle it perfectly, but I feel like there was a good opportunity here. Even after this knight trade here, Engine gives a few better moves. Bishop g5, queen e8. We looked at that line. f3, an interesting move, which I should have considered because that's kind of in my wheelhouse, the same-ish variations. And yeah, so should have given a little more time here, and this was the key moment. And after bishop h6 and f takes, really, black is in the driver's seat. Although it felt exciting, the engine just says no. Black is in charge. So cold shower. Yeah, this was a tough one to really, 2 rounds left now after this, and having to play down again. So I really was disappointed with this result.